Okay, hello and welcome to the third episode of Semaphore Uncut, a weekly show where we talk about Semaphore, CI and CD. The topic of this episode are dashboards, a new concept that we are introducing in Semaphore 2.0. The basic idea behind dashboards is to aggregate information from various places in the form that you choose, and to be able to modify them on your own and mode them to your needs depending on your pretty much on the structure of your application. And important element of that is that dashboards live on the level of organization, and you can pull information from various projects at that to any of the dashboards. Okay. Let's move on by creating a project and the organization. And let me share my screen for that. So we are going to start by let's say by creating organization. So this is Uncut episode 3. Let's call it Uncut 3. Okay, and we are going to, so once we have landed in our freshly created organization, we have to install a CLI, connect to the organization, and then create our first project. So I'm going to run through this quickly. Okay, let's check if it's working. Sam get projects. Okay, it is. And now let's create a new repository. We can call it maybe Uncut 003. Okay. Initialize it, readme, and create. Okay, so let's clone this repository. Okay. Good. And now let's add this repository to Semaphore as our project. Okay, so this command creates example repository, and we are okay. So this is unexpected. How we are going to fix this? There is something with the problem with my SH key. Okay, so I don't know, let's generate a new key. See what's going on. So okay, let's overwrite it. Okay, so for some reason there is something wrong with permissions. Okay, let's resolve this. Will it maybe work now? Okay, so I was able to clone the repository, and for some reason it's only okay. So let's try to get out of this issue. Have I maybe used HTTPS? No, I haven't. Okay. Let's try it once more. Okay. So I think I know what is the reason, but I'm not sure. Okay, let's try to resolve this by generating a new key. Okay, no passphrase. Now let's take this key and add it to GitHub. Okay, let's hope that this will resolve it. Okay, sorry about this, I'm not sure what happened. Okay, so moving on. So we have pushed our first commit to Semaphore. Here is our project. And our first pipeline should be running. Okay, and here it is. And yes, as most of you probably already know, we have this YAML file here generated for us, which is describing this pipeline. Okay, and let's continue and create an empty dashboard, and then see from there how we can continue. Okay, so as I said, dashboards are a new concept, and they're also a resource in Semaphore too. So Semaphore has a couple of resources. Projects is first one. There are secrets. We talked about those in the first two episodes. And the third resource are dashboards. So let's do sam get dashboard. Okay, so good afternoon, Valmir. Okay, here are two dashboards that are generated for us by default. And let's move to our home page and see. So here is my work, and it is a dashboard which is by default aggregating all the work that I'm pushing. So it's pretty much using my GitHub identity to identify the commits that I have made. And in on this everyone activity dashboard, if there are like multiple people in this organization all pushing to it, you will be able to see here all the workflows that have started from those pushes. Okay. And yes, here we have these dashboards generated for us. Let's just for a second describe or like get one of those. So as other resources on Semaphore, dashboards are defined through a YAML file. And in this part here, you see that we have this specification, which is describing my work dashboard. And what you can see here is that we are listing all the workflows in the organizations, and we are filtering them and using this like templating syntax, which is using my GitHub ID to identify all the commits that I have made. Okay. As a next step, let's try to create a use case where we will want to pull something to a dashboard. And an example of that could be deployment, where your team wants to follow deployments to your, let's say, staging and production servers. And to do that, we are going to create create a promotion with 2 targets. And to do that, we are going to define them here. Let's simplify our pipeline for this example. And yeah, let's say promotions. Let's say name. And yeah, first one could be staging. And pipeline file, we are going to define that pipeline in staging.yaml. And let's also create our production target. Let's call it prod. Okay. And yeah, we could, okay, sorry, can reuse this. Let's start with staging.yaml. So here we have our staging deployment pipeline. Let's call this deploy, make it simpler. Okay, and let's reuse this for our production pipeline. So we are only going to change this from staging to production. Okay, so with all this in place, we should have our 2 targets defined. So this is production pipeline, deployment pipeline defined. Here we have promotions, staging, and production, and we have our staging file defined. Okay, so let's push this. So production and staging environments introduced, and we should have them here. Okay, and yes, so we have our build test pipeline here, and let's say once that's green as it is now, we want first to promote to staging, and after that, let's say we want to promote to production. Okay, let's wait for these 2 to finish. And then I will describe one problem that needs to be solved, and that we solved with dashboards, and through that I will introduce the dashboards in a more complete way. Good. So let's say staging deployment is done, production deployment is done, and okay, that's good. And okay, so on this project we have this only one branch, and yes, only 2 promotions that happened. But let's say you want to know who and when deployed something to staging and who and when deployed something to production. Or more generally speaking, who and when triggered a particular pipeline. And in our case, we are using promotions and pipelines to describe a deployment process. And yeah, to illustrate the problem, let's create another branch. So we want super new feature. Let's push this also. And once we have that branch, and let's say from there, I'm only going to promote to staging. And yeah, the problem of like tracking deployments to staging becomes really obvious. So you really have to dig around to get to the data, or maybe even if it's even impossible to get to the data, who and what point deployed to staging environment. Okay, and yeah, with this set, let's say that we want a dashboard that will list deployments to our staging environment. And deployments to staging environment are defined as we already saw in this staging YAML file. So this is essentially a pipeline which is modeling our deployment process, and we need to grab onto it somehow, and we are going to see how we can do that. Okay, so at this point, let's just once more list our dashboards, and we want a new dashboard defined. So we are going to do sem create dashboard, and we need to give it a name. So let's say it will be, the name of our project is Uncut 3. Okay, so it can be Uncut 3 staging. Okay, so new dashboard is created for us, and it should be empty. Okay, and here it is, and as you can see, it's empty. So let's continue and finish this task that we started, and list pipelines to staging, deployments to staging here. Okay, so we need to modify our dashboard, and we are going to edit it, and here we need to specify a widget that will do that job for us and list our pipelines. And to continue from here, we have to console documentation. So the first revision of dashboard reference is here, and we can probably jump straight. It's explaining various details, but we can probably just straight to the example first and try to list that pipeline. Okay, let's take this as a starting point. So this is the name of the widget, and the name of the widget can be, for instance, staging deployments. So it's a list pipelines type. I will later also introduce the list for close type, and we need to specify project ID, but we will also need to specify which pipeline do we want to follow. And following pipelines is done through grabbing onto that file. So the file name is pretty much used as an identifier, and also we have to specify full path to a YAML file, because generally speaking, YAML files that are defining pipelines can live anywhere in your repository, so they don't have to be in this Semaphore directory. So yeah, we said, so we want Semaphore. We want this staging pipeline to follow, and we need the project ID. Okay, and this is just from the example file, and to get a project ID, we have to do get project, and the name of the project is Uncut 003. And here we can grab this. Project ID. Okay, let's continue, and now we can replace this with our project ID. Okay, so before I save this, I can maybe just comment on this. So this title part here is something that you can use to modify how this pipeline will be, how this dashboard will be presented in the list of your pipelines, and this title. And the name is used for interaction through the CLI with the system, and it's also used here in the URL. Okay, so let's save this. Okay, our dashboard should be updated, and yes, as you can see, these deployments to staging appeared here immediately. And you can see here that yes, I'm the one who made this commit, and I also propagated there. And this project, this is the branch. So in the first deployment, I deployed from master branch, and the second one I use this dummy branch, and this is actually the pipeline that was triggered. Okay, and yes, if I click here, yes, I will jump to this workflow page, and yes, at this point this is not expanded, but it's something that we are working on, and yeah, soon it will be expanded automatically and highlighted as a pipeline that you wanted to navigate to. Okay, so moving back here. Let's see what is. So this is one example, a very simple one where we have just only one widget, and to make this let's a bit broader example and to generalize a bit more, let's add one more widget to this dashboard. So we are going to edit our, let's keep them separate like this. Okay, and let's say production deployments from the same project. Here we are going to reference our pipeline through the name of this YAML file. Let's save that, jump here, wait a bit. It should appear here automatically. Okay, oh, I saved it, but I haven't quit the editor. Okay. And yes, now you can also see on this same dashboard our deployments to production. And now that we have this, I can step back and explain the reasoning how we ended up here having dashboards as something that lives on the level of organization and is something that you can configure as you like. So generally speaking, all this could be kept on the level of projects. So each project would have its own dashboards, and there you could pull the data in. In practice, more and more projects are actually composed of different applications, and that's one of the main reasons why we decided to move dashboards to the level of organization. So if your, let's say, relatively simple application is composed of like an API, a front end, and maybe some supporting APIs, let's say you have three or four services, and they are all stored in a different repositories, you would ideally want to pull all that information from what is deployed and where on a single place, which is kind of your control plane where you just understand. Just for instance, there is a problem and you need to figure out, okay, so who is the last person, or what is deployed, and having ability to just visit a dashboard which has all those information in one place is a great thing. So in this case, I'm only explaining that I'm mostly concentrating on the deployment process and how you can pull all that data in a single place. Speaking more about dashboards and ideas, essentially we took inspiration from Grafana, and you probably have used it already, but it's an application which allows you to pull data from various sources. So it can be Prometheus, InfluxDB, any AWS, any other data source that's provided through the plugin. And there you can on a dashboard which you create and essentially get the blank page as in Semaphore. You have ability through UI to click and add a couple of widgets, and in their case those are usually charts with maybe few other widgets, and maybe you don't in the first run encounter that they are specified as a JSON, those dashboards. But later, when you start creating more and more dashboards, essentially what you end up having is, okay, so I need to back up these dashboards somehow and to keep them in place, or even generate them. Because if you have dozens of widgets about a service which are following different metrics, you essentially want to have a repository where you potentially auto-generate those dashboard definitions, and then you just apply them and you have your dashboards defined in Grafana. At least that's how we are using it, and we saw that as a great thing, that you have that, let's call it a blank canvas, where you can add whatever you want that suits your needs. And as I explained in previous episode, with this approach of moving more and more interaction with the Semaphore through that YAML API that you essentially use through a SEM CLI. This look at as a great opportunity to give users that ability to model the dashboards as they would like them. So what I showed you now is essentially one type of a widget, which is just pulling in data about pipeline runs. And this is something that will probably, even when we hit GA, we will not expand on this, let's say, set of widget that we support, just from very practical reason that we have to focus on other like essential things that need to be fast and stable. But I can give you a glimpse of what we are planning. So one like small thing, we're probably going to support splitting this dashboard in a columns. So if you don't want to spend too much of the space for just one widget horizontally, you will be able to split it. And then this is a kind of a subset of list widgets that we are working on, and the other, let's say, big group are charts. And those charts will be, there are probably a couple of types, so like 3 that come to my mind that I think that are really essential are ability to follow duration of your pipeline. So if we have pulled in, for instance, here duration of our build and test pipeline, then you will be able to put a chart here and you will have historical data about the duration of your pipeline. The second one would be something that we usually call like a pass percentage. So you would be able to track how often is your pipeline passing compared to the number of times that it's failing. And the third, like simple one, is just run count of a pipeline. So if, for instance, that chart would cover a week or 2, and you would connect it to this production deployment pipeline, pretty much somewhere around here you could put a chart that would, represent a frequency of deployments to one of your environments. Okay. Yep. There are a couple of other ideas around charts. What else can be calculated? We will just have to wait and see once we ship those widgets and we hear your needs, how we can expand this further. And if you have any ideas or needs that you experienced with pulling in data, please let us know, and we will try to put them on our to-do list. So one more widget that is currently available that I can show you is workflows list widget. And for that we can create a new dashboard. And let's say that in the simplest form, we want to follow all pushes or workflow creations on this project. And let's create a new dashboard. So we can call it, let's say, uncut activity. We need to create it. Okay. Okay. So Rajiv joined. Good afternoon. Hi. Okay. Is it here? Yes. And it's live. And maybe before that we can rename this. So this is not true anymore because we introduced also production deployments here. So let's do that as a little exercise. So there is alias here. So it's Sam edit dash and it's uncut staging. So we want to change the name. So it will be deployments. And it will be, yeah, in this case also deployments. Okay. Okay, it's gone. Let's go back. Okay, so now it's named Uncut Deployments and the title is Uncut Deployments. Okay, cool. Let's move on with working on this activity dashboard. So we want to edit it. Okay, and as we said, we want to follow all activity on this project. Let's consult our documentation. So as you can see, there is this list pipeline type of a widget, and the other one is this list workflows. Let's use that and create a new widget here. So I want to call it all activity. And we want to put a filter here, which will be project ID. And then we need again to grab that project ID. Okay. Okay, let's put it here. So it says all activity on uncut activity dashboard. Okay, so let's save this and see what happens. Okay, and yes, that's what we got here. So in our situation, this all activity maps to these two branches and essentially three pushes that we made that created these workflows. Yeah, maybe one step back. So whenever you push, essentially a new workflow is created within Semaphore for that branch. And if I open this workflow is composed of multiple pipelines that can be connected with, or must be connected with promotions. In this case here, we have our route pipeline, and we have this pipeline which deployed to staging. Okay, and let's try to make a little demo of this all activity. So let's say I'm just going to create a new branch. Okay. Okay. Let's push it. Let's also make a commit here. What can we do? Maybe just rename this pipeline, build and test. Okay. Good. Oh. Okay. So I amended a previous commit. Okay. And yes, it appeared here on this this new branch. Okay. So essentially, those are the two widgets that are supported right now. There are a couple of filters that are available. Some of them I showed you. Let's quickly run through them. So filters, there is something about formatting here. So project ID can be one of the filters. That's something that we used. We also used pipeline file, and branch is something that we haven't used. And maybe we can demonstrate how that could work. And let's say for our workflows that we also want to focus on a particular branch. Let's say here we don't really care about these feature branches that we have, but we want to focus only on master branch. Let's edit our all activity dashboard, and let's introduce this filter here. Okay, it's updated, and yes, what you can see now is that only workflows that were triggered from master branch are listed here. Okay, and yes, I think that's everything that's available at this point. One more thing, my work and everyone's activity are dashboards like any other. You can delete them, you can modify them in the way that you want. And one thing that is also like minor thing that's coming, but I think it's a really nice usability thing, that you as a user in your organization, only for yourself, will be able to define what is your home dashboard, and it's your home screen. So whenever you visit your organization, you will be transferred to that default dashboard. My work, which lists all your work, is we think a great default. But you can create something different for you also. Okay, maybe we can demonstrate that these dashboards are the same as all others. Maybe we can delete this one. So let's do get dashboards. Let's call everyone's activity. So it should be delete dash and specify. Okay, delete it. Okay, gone. Yeah, it's also gone from here. Okay. So yeah, unless you have any questions, I'll wait a bit more. This is what we had in mind for this episode. We are not yet sure for the next episode. It potentially our feature for SSHing into jobs that are already running is something that will be available, and we will talk about. And additionally, more or less at the same time, we will also ship ability to start a new job or to rerun our job and then SSH into it immediately. So that's something that was available in some form in Semaphore 1, and we are expanding on it in Semaphore 2. And the other area that we could talk about potentially next episode is the CI environment, so the Ubuntu 18.04 image that we are using, and what is pre-installed, what is available, how you can access it, and so on. Okay, So it seems that there are no questions. So thank you for your time, and